Hey, thanks for coming to 1500ESPN.com. I'm Derek Wetmore, and I'm going to give you my 5 thoughts from Monday's opening day loss for the Minnesota Twins. I work on these 5 thoughts columns throughout the season, and every once in a while I like to share them in video form. The Twins lost 4-0 on Monday to the Detroit Tigers at Comerica Park. Paul Molitor's managerial debut. He loses it, but through no fault of his own, of course. Lefty David Price was pretty good for the Tigers. He carried a shutout into the 9th inning. He was 1 out away from completing the complete game shutout. Brian Dozier, Joe Mauer reached base, and Brad Ausmus pulled the cord on his starter. He went to get the closer, Joe Nathan, to finish things off, and he did so by striking out Torrey Hunter. Bit of a controversial call, though. Hunter was not too pleased with home plate umpire Joe West. I wrote about that on 1500ESPN.com if you want to go check out that story. Hunter pretty mad at some of his post-game comments. He didn't exactly hold back criticizing Joe West. So people are going to, remember that call at the end of the game. But really, in my view, the game was all about lefty David Price. He dueled with Phil Hughes. Second thought. Phil Hughes, obviously the best pitcher on the Twins last year. Their clear-cut ace entering the season. He went 6 innings, gave up 4 runs, 2 home runs, which is a little bit concerning. He only gave up 16 home runs all of last season, 4 runs and 2 home runs in his debut of 2015 today. He did have several multi-homer games in 2014, so it's not to say that never happened, but you'd like to see the home runs cut from Phil Hughes. Interestingly, he actually gave up 2 home runs in his 2014 debut as well. So let's not spell disaster with that one. Not a great first start for Phil Hughes. But it's not the end of the world. He'll have about 32 more of those to prove that he is the same pitcher that he was last year. I'll be curious to see if he can repeat his performance from 2014 because he was fantastic. Thought number 3, speaking of home runs, Kurt Suzuki had one robbed in left field when Yoenis Cespedes went up to get a line drive that I thought was going to leave the park. Kurt Suzuki, not exactly known for his power, but he got a hold of one off Price, and Cespedes tracked it back to the wall, brought it back before it could leave, posted the video online there. David Price looked a little bit happy with that result. Thought number 4, J.R. Graham made his Major League debut on Monday. He pitched 2 scoreless innings for the Twins. He's the reliever that the Twins got this winter from the Braves in the Rule 5 draft. He was one of their better relievers in spring training. Now, we've talked about it before, but spring training numbers, take them with a grain of salt. They do mean something. They're not meaningless, but it's dangerous to read too far into them, to say the least. Graham was good this spring. He has not been good in his career in the minors with the Braves. Formerly a very highly thought of prospect, but dealt with injuries, and that's certainly set back the 25-year-old so far in his career. I don't know how the season's going to shake out for J.R. Graham, but I would expect the Twins to try to keep him on their 25-man roster. If at any point they want to take him off, as a Rule 5 guy, he'd have to clear waivers and then be offered back to the Braves before the Twins could send him to their minor leagues. The Twins did this a couple of years ago, actually, with Ryan Presley. Had a reliever just sort of at the end of their bullpen, a fine reliever. Nothing great, and they weren't going to trust him in a 9th-inning role or anything like that. But they were able to stash him for the full season. I think they gave him something like 50 innings, if I recall correctly, this a few years back. And now, because they got through the end of the season, they didn't have to offer him back to the Red Sox. They have Ryan Presley in their system now. I'd expect something similar with J.R. Graham, but of course his performance will dictate that. Thought number 5, it was Paul Molitor's managerial debut, so I held off on any shots questioning his tactics. I'm very curious to see how good of a tactical manager Paul Molitor will be in games. Certainly I know he's thoughtful, and hearing him explain some of his thought processes in spring training when I was down there is pretty interesting. He thinks about the game on a whole nother level, and it'll be kind of fun and interesting to question some of his decisions, to second guess some of the things he does. I could have done that on Monday. I'm not sure why Jordan Schaefer, who's starting against a lefty, his career numbers against left-handed pitchers, he bats 167 with a 248 on-base percentage, which is dreadful, and a 222 slugging percentage. So Jordan Schaefer probably has no business facing left-handed pitchers, especially not one as good as David Price on the mound. But we'll hold off till at least his second game to criticize some of the decisions Paul Molitor makes. That'll do it for this video. Check out my 5 Thoughts column on 1500ESPN.com. Went into some deeper detail on some of these issues. I'll be writing most games with 5 Thoughts columns. Home, road, doesn't matter. I'm watching the game on TV anyways when they're on the road, so figure I'd share some of my thoughts. Until the next video, follow me on Twitter at Derek Wetmore. And all of our coverage on the Twins can be found at 1500ESPN.com. On the Sports Wire, just click on the Twins icon. Pretty simple. Until next time, thanks for watching this video. We'll catch you later.